Hey guys, how are we going? Welcome to the weekly roundup. It is Friday, May the 10th, 2024, and it's been a big week for Aussie boxing. It's going to be a bigger weekend this weekend, and of course, also in the world boxing scene, plenty happening last weekend and also coming up over the next few weeks. So, with the Australian scene last Monday night, you would have seen that Jason Maloney came up short in his fight against Yoshiki Takai. He lost his WBO bantamweight title. He drops to 27-3. Takai improves to 9-0. The final score was 117-110, 116-111, and 116-111. Look, I'm sure Jason will be the first one to say he's extremely disappointed with the result. He just has really struggled to get close to Takai for the duration of the fight. Takai did fight very well, and I've mentioned before that the Japanese fighters are so sharp with their punches and really good with their footwork, really good power in the shot. So, look, it was a tough night at the office for Jason. There has been probably a little bit of criticism. It's always great after the fact that he took the fight in Japan rather than fighting on this weekend's Kambosos Lomachenko undercard. But if you look at the numbers involved, apparently it was about 3 times the amount of money he could have got here. So at this stage of his career, you cannot blame him for going over to Japan to defend that belt, especially 55,000 people. It was the biggest crowd ever that an Australian has fought in front of. That was at the Tokyo Dome. The first show since the 1990 upset win by Buster Douglas over Mike Tyson. So I'm sure Jason will be back. It's not like he's being comprehensively beaten as far as taking punches. He was outpointed, no doubt. But the fact that, as I said, he hasn't really taken a lot of punishment, no doubt he'll be back. And the fact he's also very, very popular in Japan now, very recognised. Of course, he's had some good fights against the Japanese fighters, none bigger, of course, than Inoue a couple of years ago. But he is very well known over there. There are fights there for him. He's got maybe Inoue's little brother, maybe Nakatani. So we'll see, but certainly not the end of the road for Jason Maloney. And I don't subscribe to this thing that just because you lose a belt or lose a fight or you're 33 years of age that it's curtains for you. I think you're a long time retired. There's a difference between getting knocked around and stopped or knocked out compared to getting outpointed. So I think Jason Maloney still has plenty left in the tank. And as I said, I still think there's some big fights out there for Jason, particularly in Japan. The rest of the card, of course, on the main event, Naoya Inoue improved to 27-0 with a 6th round knockout. Underline knockout over Lewis Neary. He drops to 35-2. That was in defence of his undisputed 122-pound world title. There's not really much to say, except probably that he got dropped in the first round for the first time in his career. And I must say, Neary did look really good in the first couple of rounds. However, this is why championship fights are 12 rounds and not 2 or 3 rounds. It's a long time to last in there with Inoue. And while he did show a few flaws in his armoury, a little bit of a habit I probably don't like is he puts his chin up in the air sometimes and gets caught. However, no one has really come close to solving Inoue's power and his overall skills. So just a great fight and performance by Inoue. And after the fight, you would have seen that our own Sam Goodman jumped into the ring, not particularly to challenge Inoue, though he did say that either fight him or give up the belts. Look, it's a bit of a bold statement coming from probably an unknown contender in Sam to put that on Naoya Inoue. But credit to him for going all the way over there to hop in the ring. I'm not sure whether he might have believed some of the things he was saying. But look, he's the number one challenger in 2 of those organisations. So good on him for putting it on the line. These guys sacrifice so much for being fighters. So I think regardless of who holds the belt, you've got to give yourself every chance to win those belts. Why sacrifice and dedicate yourself so much to the sport if you're not going to put your hand up to fight the champion? And it sort of reminds me a little bit back in the day with Mike Tyson when he held the undisputed title. No one wanted to fight him, but guess what? He was the champion, and to win that belt and get the big paydays, you had to go through him. And I sort of liken this. So credit to Sam for going all the way over there and jumping in the ring and making it known that he wants to fight Inoue. There is rumours that maybe Inoue might fight in England at the end of the year. I'll be surprised if that's the case. I think it will be back in Japan. There's also been rumours here in Australia that it could be in Wollongong, which is the hometown of Sam Goodman. I strongly doubt that as well. I'm not sure there's the money there to pry him out of Japan. And why would the undisputed champion give up home ground advantage when he just doesn't have to? Sam Goodman's nowhere near a big enough name in the world scene to even warrant even having that discussion. The only thing that might prompt in a way to come to Australia is just to maybe a different set of scenery, to maybe be known more of as a global type of champion. But as I said, I still think that fight ends up in Japan what looks like September at this stage. Just quickly, the other fights on the undercard, Takuma Inoue, so the younger brother of Naoya, he improved to 20-1 with a 12-round decision over Sho Ishida. He dropped to 34-4. That was for the WBA bantamweight title. The scores there 118-109. Times 2 and 116-111. And Seigo Yuri Akui improved to 20 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw with a 12-round decision over Taku Kuwahara, who dropped to 13-2. That was for the WBA flyweight title. The scores there 117-111 times 2 and 118-110. Now on to this weekend, a massive card in Perth at the RAC Arena. It is George Kambosos 21-2 up against Vasily Lomachenko, 3-time world champion, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. He's 17-3. They'll battle it out for the vacant IBF World Lightweight title. I was just going to say it's probably one of the biggest fights in years, but we've had so many involving Australians, especially here in Australia, that I would probably put it up there with Horn versus Pacquiao in 2017. I think it surpasses Kambosos and Haney, but what a weekend of fights it's going to be. Look, internationally, not many people give George much of a chance against Lomachenko. I personally think it'll be a better fight than most people, especially overseas, expect. We don't know how much Vasily Lomachenko's got left. He hasn't fought since, I think it was April last year. So he's been out of the ring for over a year now. How much has that Devin Haney loss affected him? George Kambosos also hasn't fought since July either, but I think he will probably be the fresher type of fighter, mentally, physically, whatever you want to call it, more active fighter. But it should be a ripper fight. Look, I'm probably going to lean still with Vasily Lomachenko to win the fight. However, as I said, I think it'll be a lot closer than a lot of people may think. Got to remember, this is George's, well, I won't say it's his hometown, but it's his home turf here in Australia. And I think if he brings himself to rise to the occasion like he did against Teofimo Lopez a couple of years ago, I think we might have one hell of a fight on our hands. So on the undercard, it's a stat card. Andrew Maloney, 26-3. He'll take on Pedro Guevara, 41-4-1 for the vacant WBC interim super flyweight title. So some big fights there for the winner. And also Shanika Johnson, 15-2. She'll fight Nina Hughes for the WBA super bantamweight title. So 122. A couple of good heavyweight fights on the undercard. Joseph Goodall taking on Django Opalou. Goodall 10-2-1. Opalou 16-4-2 over 10 rounds. Should be entertaining. Django always comes to fight, and Joseph Goodall wasn't so great last time out, but he's still got a future, and I'd say he'll be looking at this more of a tune-up. And Lucas Big Daddy Brown, Perth's own, 31-5. He'll take on Hemi Ahoyo in a good fight. He's 21-1. That's over 8 rounds. So a really, really good card. It's going to start early. I think it starts at about 8 o'clock in the morning in Perth. So you think that the fighters will have to be there, probably worst case 6 o'clock for that first fight. Good luck to the boys and girls on that card. So looking forward to it. I'm just about to head to the airport myself to head to Perth, and can't wait for a massive weekend of boxing in Perth. Onto the world scene. Last weekend, Canelo Alvarez retained his 168 undisputed world title with a 12-round decision over Jaime Munguia. Canelo Alvarez improved to 61-2-2. Jaime Munguia suffered his first loss. He drops to 43-1. The scores 117, 110, 116, 111, and 115, 112. I had it 116, 111. I didn't agree with the commentators who were on the broadcast. I think they had Munguia only winning 1 or 2 rounds. I thought he did really, really well early in the fight. I thought he won the first 3 rounds, but after that, best case for him, only won a couple of rounds. But I thought it was a complete performance by Canelo. Look, I think Munguia did make his job a lot easier with the way he fought and maybe a little bit of the inexperience that he had. But at the end of the day, this guy was probably the second in line after David Benavidez as far as importance in the division and rankings in the division. Arguably, I know there might be some out there that might say Belunga or Mbili or Morel, of course, who's just gone up to 175. But for me, it was the next best fight besides Benavidez, and I thought Munguia really acquitted himself well. Just came up against a great champion in Canelo Alvarez, who just did what he had to do. Not quite sure he's quite got the spark anymore, Canelo, like he did have years ago. I thought his punches seemed a little bit slower, not as much power, though he did put Munguia down in the 4th round, of course. But I think he will be carefully matched over the last couple of years of his career, and whether that includes the fight with David Benavidez, we'll see. I think, strangely enough, Benavidez would also work into Canelo's hands. I know he's a big guy. I know he throws a lot of punches. I know he can punch. But I think the fact he comes forward and would allow Canelo to fight off the back foot and really try and control the tempo of the fight, I think that would suit Canelo rather than trying to chase a fleet-footed fighter, or even someone like Bivol, who's so good on his feet, quick with his hands, throws a lot of punches with a high work rate. So I think Benavidez would also suit Canelo. Let's see if we get that fight. The fact that Benavidez is actually going up to 175 for his next fight does make me worry that we might not ever see this fight. He has said that he can come down to 168, but it's a long way back once you've actually made the move to 175. So look, let's keep our fingers crossed. But again, great performance by Canelo Alvarez, and I think he's still got maybe 4, if not 5 good fights left in him. On the undercard of that fight at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Mario Barrios improved to 29-2 with a 12-round decision over Fabian Maidana, who dropped to 22-3. That was in defense of his WBC interim 147-pound title. The score was there 116-111 times 3. Brandon Figueroa, he improved to 25-1-1. He had a 9th round stoppage or knockout of Jesse Magdaleno. He dropped to 29-3. That was for the WBC interim 126-pound title. Looked pretty good, did Figueroa as well. And Amantas Stanionis improved to 15-0 with a 12-round decision over Gabriel Maestra. He dropped to 6-1-1. That was in defense of his WBC 147-pound title. Scores there 119, 109, 118, 110, and 117, 111. Now, some news coming to hand. Not quite sure or whether it's true or not. It's just rumours at this stage. But speaking of Canelo Alvarez, that Terence Crawford is now back in the mix. I know Terence Crawford's got his own fight against Israel Madrimov in August, but the Turk, or His Excellency, or whatever you want to call him over there, has put it on the table. He'd love to see and put on the Alvarez-Crawford fight in either December of this year or January of next year. So, of course, Crawford's got to get through his fight in August, and Canelo will fight again in September. I'm not quite sure what will happen, but if anyone can make this fight happen, it is the Turk or the Sheikh or His Excellency. I'll let you decide what to call him. But either way, it is back on the table, and so far, what the Turk gets, or the Turk gets, or wants he gets, I'll spit that out. He usually he gets his way. So let's see what happens there. We'll keep an eye on that one. Another fight that's just maybe starting to bubble is that Ryan Garcia and Errol Spence have now got a little bit of beef. A little bit of social media activity this week, so I'm not sure whether that fight happens. Ryan Garcia coming up from I was going to say 140, probably coming up, was at 143 he actually fought at, so he'd be coming up from 143. Errol Spence, I'm not quite sure trying to make 147 would be in his best interest. Of course, he's coming off the car accidents, the eye injuries. He's 34, hasn't fought since July last year. I think he's only had 2 fights in the last 3 years. So coming up against someone like Ryan Garcia, coming up in weight, who would be big and strong and solid at the weight, where Errol Spence would be really, really weak. And so I'm not quite sure that makes sense to Errol Spence at this stage. However, that would be a big money fight. I would prefer to see Errol Spence go up to maybe even bypass 154 and go to 160. Having said that, though, the big fights are at 154. But geez, if he wanted to actually go up and make the weight comfortably and have a really good shot of winning a title in a pretty weak division at the moment, maybe it is a jump all the way up to 160. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Speaking again of His Excellency over there in Saudi Arabia, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk's only a couple of weeks away, or 1 week away actually, but he's already got the second fight on the table. He's looking at either October 12th or 13th in Saudi Arabia for the rematch. Although having said that as well, there has been talk that he would pay a step-aside fee to the loser of that fight. There is a rematch clause in place, of course, in these fights, there always are. Some step-aside money or some other reward or something to tempt the loser to step aside to allow the winner to fight Anthony Joshua. So my personal opinion is if Tyson Fury wins the fight, Alexander Usyk will be compensated handsomely for stepping aside for Fury and Joshua. However, I think if Usyk wins, I don't think we'll see Tyson Fury step aside and allow Usyk Joshua 3. I think there will definitely be a Fury and Usyk rematch if Usyk wins, if that makes sense. But it is on the table, October 12th or 13th. So hopefully that is the case. Another fighter returning, Shakur Stevenson. He will fight Artem. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name, Haratianyam. I'm just hopeless with these names. Apologies for all you fans out there that do get it right. He's making his comeback on July 6th in Newark, New Jersey. On the undercard, Shaki Foster, 22-2, will defend his WBC super featherweight title against Robson Conceição. He's 18-2-1. And Keyshawn Davis, 10-0. He'll fight Miguel Maduano. He's 31-2 over 10 rounds at lightweight. So good to see Shakur Stevenson back and see whether he can get the big fights as well at lightweight. Let's see if maybe he gets the winner of this weekend's Lomachenko and Kambosos fight. That would be one hell of a fight as well. And just to finish up, Jermall Charlo has been stripped of his WBC middleweight title. He's got a little bit else on his plate at the moment as well. He was arrested in the last couple of days for a DUI and also fleeing the scene. He crashed his Ferrari, I think it was, while under the influence of alcohol, and as I said, fled the scene. Now he's been arrested for that. Will face court at a future date, but to make matters worse, he has been stripped of his WBC middleweight title, and I've got to say, about time. He's held the title, I think, for a number of years now. Hasn't defended it, I think, in close to 3 years. So if anyone deserves to be stripped, it is Jermall Charlo. And the WBC haven't wasted any time. Carlos Adames has been inducted, or given the WBC belt, installed as that champion. And he's wasted no time in defending that belt. He'll fight former Tim Tszyu victim Terrell Gausha on June 15 in defense of that title. So that's about it for this week, guys and girls. Hope you have a great weekend watching the fights. Make sure you check out Sunday's fight, Lomachenko and Kambosos. This is in Australia, of course. It's Saturday night overseas. But can't wait for the fight. As I said, I'm heading over there this afternoon, about to head to the airport, and can't wait for a massive weekend of boxing. So have a great weekend, and we will catch you next week on the Weekly Roundup.